But let's get started. Today is day 3, and the clue, or a different way to think on that, I'm seeing it is a breadcrumb. The breadcrumb for today is a penny. It came as I was sitting in the garden drinking this mushroom coffee concoction. No surprise there. I'm experimenting with, and I was asking Spirit for some guidance. I was like, what the heck? Day 3, what is the clue going to be? And then I looked down and boop, there it was. There it was. Because yesterday, I almost gave in. It was difficult. You know when you cannot quite connect the thoughts spinning in your brain at lightning speed around your tongue to actually say what you want clearly? Yeah, well, that was yesterday. It wasn't brain frog. It wasn't brain fog. It was this resistance. It was a roadblock, and I could feel it presenting itself to see if I was all in on these 30 days. I felt a little at odds with myself, maybe a little lost and dry-mouthed. No matter what I consumed, my mouth was dry. So what I understood was that there was a roadblock. How bad do you want it? How much are you willing to put in the work for your growth? And I was getting ready to get sucked into all that, the 100 different justifications for why I didn't have to record it all, because I'm a grown-ass woman. And I wanted, in the end, to be a stand for the commitment I made. And, my MO is always to be a stand for others. But where was that for myself? So I let go of perfect, and I just did it. I put it together, but I didn't really listen to it. That's how you become a stand for yourself in menopause, really, with all of the things in midlife. Okay, so back to the clue. So when I looked down and there was the penny, it was pretty clear that was the clue. I mean, yeah. I looked at the penny and I was like, I can follow this a million different ways. I can look at the date and move from that, or I can sit with my time in upstate New York, living at my friend's old farmhouse with my Labrador Solomon, 2 turntables, and a ghost named Penny. Yes, a ghost. And we called her Penny because she used to move pennies around to communicate. If you put a penny in a bowl, she would take some pennies out and maybe put them in a row. If you put a penny in your pocket, she might take another penny and put it in your pocket, or line them up like on the edge of the tub, or when you would go to brush your teeth in the morning, there would be a penny there. That's how she communicated. Yeah, it kind of really freaked me out. And so that was another way that popped up immediately, pretty quick, that I could go with this. And then I remembered that last night I created this art piece from a photograph of my mom and I in Jamaica 2 years ago. And I was called to share it with my mother, which, by the way, is rare. And the conversation flowed right into yesterday's post about mangoes and Jamaica train of thought, right? That was our most recent trip, and my trips as a girl to my father. Then, of course, uh, that preceded that. So I shared with my mom what I'd written to accompany the photograph piece, and she started to tear up. And I explained that remembrance and how I'm present to the stories we tell and why they're so important to the older generation, of which to some, my generation is now that generation, what they hold. I've always wondered why they were so important. And it's because they hold medicine. Within that share, something also happened that I didn't expect at all. My mom said, her words, I feel seen. I feel seen. And with that, I named the photograph piece Penny for Your Thoughts, which I'll post on Instagram with the little bit that I wrote about it. Yeah, so as the conversation about yesterday's 30-day audio carried on, Mom shared that she shared stories that resonated for her, and her energy totally began to shift. At one point, she said, something's happening. And I felt it. Of course, I felt it. And I smiled and offered her some wisdom. I said, you're getting complete. Perhaps that's the medicine. And so our conversation drifted back into part of yesterday's story that I almost left out. It's so funny how that happens. The pieces we're most tempted to leave out often carry the deepest medicine. And the part that I almost didn't put in yesterday's podcast was the boy on the street. It felt like a lot, and it was a lot. It was also the moment I became ashamed of my parents coming up. Yeah. And so that was huge. And the making of the dress, two seemingly disconnected moments, connected by time and space, two breadcrumbs, two initiations. At the time, they felt completely disconnected, and now I can finally see they were foreshadowing stories that would shape my life for decades. My first encounters with suffering, I couldn't seem to fix. Not with all of the swimming, not with trying to change my body, starve myself, if you will. But my first encounters with body shaming that I could not explain, and I never shared it. I never shared it with anyone, not even my therapists over the years. Never, until this morning. That gave me pause. And the first time with the complicated grown folk type of feeling of loving where you come from, also wanting to belong somewhere else. The first cracks in the innocence of my childhood. For years, I believed those moments really fucked me up. They wounded me. And perhaps they did. And sitting with my mother 40 decades later, listening to her story and sharing my own, I began feeling a lightness and a shift in energy in the entire house. Something was definitely happening, realizing that the wound, it was never the whole story. The story was also about witnessing and finally allowing ourselves, ourselves, to look directly at the places we have all spent years looking away from. My mother felt seen, and honestly, the younger version of me finally felt really seen as well. You know, the girl standing behind the curtain could breathe, and the girl trying to make sense of the world that could hold beauty and heartbreak in the same moment. She could breathe. The one who would spend years trying to outrun questions that were never meant to be answered, she exhaled. And maybe that's really what completion is, you know? We don't need to understand every last piece of it. Maybe completion is simply, I don't know, being able to sit beside a story without needing to change the ending or understanding all of it. To look at it with tenderness and allow it to belong. The penny. This penny brought me here. A copper breadcrumb amongst the gravel. A photograph. A conversation with my mom. A memory and a wound I thought I was healed from. Then finding myself standing in front of a doorway I didn't know was still cracked open. It's so funny. Pennies. People toss them aside. I mean, if you're listening from somewhere else, the United States we don't even use the penny anymore. We step over them. We leave them where they fall. And every now and then, though, there's that one penny that, you know, seems to call your attention, and you actually pick it up. And, you know, if you're paying attention, it becomes far more than 1 cent. It becomes a scent to follow. It becomes a clue. The year on the penny, hang on, let me look. Oh, okay. Okay. So pay attention to what keeps returning. You know, the memory, the photograph. Remember the feeling. Perhaps remembering is simply gathering the pieces of ourselves with enough tenderness that they finally feel safe enough to come home. Until tomorrow, move your body, drink the water, eat the fruit, protect your nervous system, speak your truth, follow the breadcrumb. And if spirit leaves a penny in your path, pick it up. You never know where it might lead. And the year 1991.